so happy we alive.
Good evening and welcome to Louisville Late Night. This evening we're in lovely Vancouver, Canada, and we're privileged to have with us a real mover and shaker in the marijuana decriminalization movement, and someone who is responsible for tremendous advances that have taken place here in Canada, and someone who is spreading the good word around the earth in a number of different ways. Let me introduce to you Mr. Marc Emery.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Yeah, down in Louisville. You know where Louisville is even?
Louisville, Kentucky. My good friend Gatewood Galbraith is from Kentucky, and I believe he has a law office in Louisville.
Well, yes.
Lexington, actually.
Right. Gatewood's been on the show a number of times, in fact. And
a fine southern gentleman, we think of him.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear that. Unfortunately, Gatewood, actually, he's been doing well in the running back home, with substantial gains, but unfortunately, as far as real change in marijuana legislation, Gatewood has not been able to prevail, and that's part of why I'm up here in Canada. I want to know what you guys have been doing up here, and if you don't mind, Mark, could you tell us a little bit about yourself personally to start with? Are you from this area?
No, I came to this area in 1994 when, oddly enough, I'm from the eastern part of Canada, and I used to do activism on behalf of liberty and issues of freedom for about 12 years, and I got all kind of, you know, every now and then when you're an activist, you get all burnt out and you get kind of pissed off at your fellow citizens for not carrying the ball with you, and you get kind of like pouty, and I decided to leave Canada. They were unworthy of me, and I thought they were all cowards, and so I took off to live in Asia for 2 years, which was kind of a nice break, but the net effect of that is I ended up losing all my money building a beautiful big house on the side of this volcano crater lake in Indonesia, still there to this day, beautiful spot. And the idea was that I would build this house with my money, cost me $40,000, but fabulous chalet type place, looking down on the most mythical lake I'd ever seen. And I built it. It took me 4 months to design it, built it, and then the day I finished it, it was on these people's property, and the idea was I would build it, live there for 6 years, and then at the end of 6 years it would revert to their ownership, just like that, without any cost or anything. Well, the day I finished it, they decided that they wanted to have ownership of it right then and there. So I lost basically all my money on that house. I never spent a day in.
Oh, my God.
So consequently, I was both broken-hearted about that and also broke by now because I'd spent all my savings on it. And I had to come back to North America to start work. And I'd always been searching for the elusive kind of civil rights liberty campaign that would be self-sustaining. The problem with all political activity I'd found is that I had to earn a lot of it and pay for it myself, but a lot of fundraising was involved. And the thing is, it was basically begging. You're always begging people for money when you run political campaigns of some kind. And I thought, no, it's too much time is spent for begging and wheedling for money and not enough time, you know, in activism. So I needed to come up with a self-generating business that produced money that could fuel its own revolution, and that's what we came upon when we developed the Hemp BC model, which eventually expanded into quite something. But what happened when I first arrived here in March 1994 is all books about marijuana were banned in Canada and had been banned since 1988. So I went door to door on the street, people in bus stops, in comic book shops, in variety stores, wherever I could go, I would be selling, illegally, High Times magazine and a book called Grow Your Own Stone. And I would carry them around with me, and I would sell them to people on the street and in stores. And eventually, after 5 months of doing that, I was selling 2,000 High Times magazine a month in Canada. And I had earned enough in 5 months to pay the rent on a little tiny burned-out building on Hastings Street, a really bad area. And we opened Hemp BC on July 7th, 1994. And within 1 year, it did $1 million in sales. And we quickly exploded into having a grow shop, a wholesale division. We were supplying 25 stores within a year. We started Cannabis Canada, now Cannabis Culture magazine. We had the Legal Assistance Center. We'd use a lot of our profits to buy lawyers to help them out with poor people and people who couldn't afford legal services. And we had within 2 years, we had 35 employees and a really thriving business. But then the raids started coming as we became very prominent in the media and throughout Canada and began having a big influence. We attracted a lot of attention of authorities And we got 4 raids from 1996 to 1998, and that took close to $1 million worth of assets from me in our operation. So we were constantly under heavy attack in that period of time.
Oh, wow.
And but see, that taught me an important lesson. Losing my house in Indonesia, you know, and then 4 raids where the police take everything you have, all your inventory, all your cash, everything, taught me that property is very transient, and that for me to stay alive as a business and keep our revolution going, I would have to develop an idea of generating money without an inventory that could be seized. Because, you know, we were selling seeds throughout this business. We were giving marijuana away free at the Cannabis Cafe. Eventually we had the Cannabis Cafe in 1997. And it allows me to have this wonderful restaurant where we're playing marijuana music, and all the food has hemp seed oil in it, hemp seeds. You know, I'm getting everybody high at all their tables, and we're establishing this wonderful precedent for North America. And it went on for about 6 to 7 wonderful months, but then eventually the police raided that too. And just there's not much to take in a restaurant that you can seize, but they did as much, you know, obstruction as possible. And then they refused to renew business license that had been renewed for 3 or 4 years. They wouldn't renew them. And so, you know, increasing number of obstacles occurred from our activism. So we went into businesses where there are no assets. For example, Pot TV, which doesn't make money, but there's nothing to seize there. Cannabis Culture magazine, again, there's nothing to seize. The magazine exists, it's out there, but we don't own anything. So even my seed business is done in such compartmentalized format that it's difficult for the police to really interfere with the business, even if they arrested me. And so it would continue to go on in my absence. And then the store that we have upstairs that pays for the BC Marijuana Party, because even though I'm the primary financier of the BC Marijuana Party, because it's public property, a political party is an incorporated entity that's owned theoretically by the public, we have a business upstairs, even though the city council said they would never ever give me a business license for anything I'm ever involved with. After a year of stalling here, they basically conceded that because we're a non-profit society incorporated under provincial law, we don't even need a business license to sell goods here. So it's turned out to be, you know, all those bad things that happened to me, the 4 raids, losing all that money in Indonesia, getting your ass kicked has a lot of valuable lessons in it. So I've learned, A, don't get possessive about people or things, because everything comes and goes, so don't get too upset when they go. And that's a handy lesson for when you're involved with women and when you're involved in politics. And property, don't get too enamored of property because it's just temporary. And then the other thing is, too, that there's a way to do everything. I mean, it's a real cheeky thing that we have the BC Marijuana Party shop here in the very spot where Hemp BC was, where the city very explicitly said that they would never, ever permit me back in this area ever again. And now they have to get used to the fact that we're literally using this as our headquarters to launch my campaign for mayor of Vancouver, which will have a substantial impact on the politics of the city in the fall.
Wow. This is really exciting. It's so unusual. I don't know of.
Well, Canada's a nation of friendly fascism. In the United States, I'd be in jail for 1,000 years plus, or even executed. For the number of seeds I've sold throughout the world and in the United States in various spots, you know, that they would consider me a drug kingpin, and then you can get the death penalty. In the United States, selling 60,000 seeds or more is the death penalty. Well,
60,000 is the death penalty?
Yeah, because 60,000 plants, 60,000 seeds, since a seed is considered equivalent to a plant if you're selling it for the purposes of propagation. And of course I do, and I've sold millions of seeds, like
really?
in my 8 years. Yeah, like
is the seed business a success then? I mean,
well, we're the world leaders, so yeah, I'd have to say that, you know, huge amounts of our revenue are derived from seeds.
Really, you're even ahead of the Amsterdam operations.
Well, we buy from all of those people and resell them, so I would still say, yeah, we're easily the principal resellers in the world.
I mean, just as a little aside, is this a problem with postage and laws and so forth?
Well, nothing that can't be bypassed. I mean, in the sense that, you know, there is always laws on the books that say such an activity is illegal, but Canada has a different way of prosecuting. First of all, Canada will prosecute activists like they do in the United States if you're prominent and out there and kind of making the information very public, so that a lot of our medical marijuana activists who do TV interviews and promote, you know, aggressively tend to get arrested. But the similarity between Canada and the United States ends there. Here there's no incentive, or there's no government plan to put people in jail for anything like that. Like,